My daughter Mila stared at her plate, her fork motionless. The Sunday dinner table fell silent. "What did you just say?" I asked, keeping my voice calm as I set down my own fork. My sister Daniela leaned back in her chair, a wine glass dangling from her fingers. "Oh, come on, we're all thinking it. The girl barely talks. She spends all day drawing weird things. It's not normal for a 10-year-old. Mila's shoulders slumped, her fingers gripping the edge of the table, knuckles turning white. "Daniela," my mother said, her voice heavy with warning, "I'm just saying what everyone is too polite to mention." Daniela took a sip of her wine. Maybe if Alana actually did some parenting, Mila would have friends and fit in. My dad cleared his throat. "Let's change the subject." "No," I said. I looked straight at Daniela. "Tell me more about my parenting." She rolled her eyes. "Don't get so defensive. I'm trying to help you. My kids are thriving. Honor roll, captain of the soccer team, student council. They're fine because Dawson and I set expectations." Her twin sons sat across from Mila, wearing the same mocking smirk. One whispered something to the other, and they both snickered. "Ah, yes." I took a slow sip of water. "The boys are doing well. Very well." Daniela puffed up with pride. "Unlike some children who live in fantasy worlds instead of developing real skills." Mila pushed her chair back. "May I be excused?" "Finish your dinner, sweetie," I said, never taking my eyes off Daniela. "See?" Daniela gestured with her glass. "Can't even handle a little constructive criticism. That's the problem right there. You're coddling her, Alana. The real world isn't going to be so gentle." My brother Sawyer shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His wife, Rosalie, was studying her plate as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. As usual, no one wanted to get involved. "Daniela," my mom tried again, "this is not appropriate." "Oh, Mom, someone has to say it. Mila is almost 11 and she acts like she's 6. She probably needs help, but Alana is too busy to notice." My little job. I let the phrase hang in the air. "What exactly do you think Mila should be doing differently?" I asked. "Participating, socializing, normal kid stuff," Daniela said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Instead, she's off in corners with her weird little drawings. I'm sure her teachers think she has a problem." "Her teachers?" I nodded. "And what do your son's teachers say?" Daniela's smile faltered. "What?" "Their teachers. What you're hearing from the school." "They say their teachers love them," she said, but her voice lost its confidence. "Why?" "Just small talk." I cut my chicken and chewed slowly. "Since we're on the topic of our children's education, how are things going at St. James Academy?" The name of the private school hung in the air. Daniela's fingers tightened around her wine glass. "Fine. Everything's fine, really." I tilted my head. "That's funny because I heard there might be some issues of academic honesty." Dawson, Daniela's husband, spoke for the first time. "Where did you hear that?" "Around." I took another bite. "Small community, prestigious school, word gets around." "There is no problem." Daniela's voice was sharp. "The boys are perfect. Someone is spreading rumors." I looked at the twins. They weren't smirking anymore. "Must be a misunderstanding, because I could have sworn I heard something about plagiarism and cheating on midterms. But if you say everything's fine..." Daniela's face went pale. "Who told you that?" "So there are problems." I put my fork down. "Interesting you didn't mention them while you were critiquing my mothering." "That's completely different. It's a misunderstanding." "Is it?" I kept my tone conversational. "Buying essays online sounds pretty straightforward. Not a lot of room for misunderstanding there." The table went dead silent. My father stopped eating. Sawyer stared at me, his eyes wide. "How do you know that?" Dawson's voice was tense. "I have my sources." I glanced at Mila, who had lifted her head slightly and was watching. The school takes academic dishonesty very seriously, from what I understand, especially when it's repeated. It's being handled. Daniela's hand trembled slightly as she set down her glass. The school is working with us. Yes. I folded my napkin. Generous of them, considering the evidence. The identical essays purchased from term paper mills, the matching answers on the exams, the access logs showing the boys accessed restricted materials during the test. Daniela shoved her chair back. Stop it, just stop. Why? I thought we were talking about parenting and child development, about real-world consequences. I looked at my daughter. Sweetie, what did you get on your last English essay? An A. Her voice was barely a whisper. And was it your own work? She nodded. Original analysis. Your own words. Yes, Mom. I turned back to Daniela. You see? My daughter might be quiet. She might spend her time drawing instead of playing soccer. But she is honest. She does her own work. She has integrity. This isn't the same thing. Daniela's voice rose. You're twisting everything. Am I? I leaned back in my chair. You came into my parents' house and insulted my child to her face. You called her weird. You suggested she needs help. You blamed me for the way she is, all while your own children are facing expulsion for systematic academic fraud. They're not going to be expelled, Daniela said, but it no longer sounded convincing. Not yet. I picked up my fork again. The disciplinary hearing is on Tuesday, isn't it? At 3 p.m. in the headmaster's conference room. Absolute silence. Dawson stood up. How do you know the details of a confidential school matter? Maybe I'm better informed than you thought. I took a drink of water. Maybe my little job isn't as insignificant as Daniela seems to believe. What are you talking about? Daniela's voice became shrill. My mom leaned forward. Alana, what is going on? Mom, you know I work at St. James Academy, right? You've known for 2 years. You're an administrative assistant. Daniela latched onto it. You just file papers. That's what you think, I smiled. Did you ever actually ask what my position was? Or did you just assume? The color drained from Daniela's face. I'm not an administrative assistant. I let the words settle. I'm the Dean of Academic Affairs. I oversee all disciplinary proceedings related to academic honesty. Every case of plagiarism, cheating, or fraud comes across my desk. Dawson sat down with a thud. One of the twins made a small noise. Which means, I continued, my voice perfectly calm, that I have reviewed every piece of evidence against your sons, the paper trail of purchased essays, the pattern of identical incorrect answers on tests that suggests a shared cheat sheet, the suspicious browser history on their school-issued laptops, the statements from 3 different teachers who noticed the discrepancies. Daniela opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No sound came out. I've read the essays they bought. They're quite well written, actually, which makes it all the more obvious they didn't write them, given their previous work. I reviewed the exams, I interviewed the witnesses, I assembled the entire file for the disciplinary board. Dawson finally found his voice. You can't be on that board. This is family. It's a conflict of interest. You're absolutely right, I agreed, which is why I have recused myself from the vote, but I prepared the evidence file, and believe me, it's comprehensive. Alana, my mother's voice was faint, you never said. No one ever asked. I looked around the table. Everyone just assumed I was Daniela's less successful little sister with the weird kid and the dead-end office job. No one cared enough to ask for details. Sawyer rubbed his face. This is insane. What's insane, I kept my tone even, is Daniela spending years making passive-aggressive comments about my daughter while her own sons were systematically cheating their way through one of the best private schools in the state. Mila might be different. She might be quiet and artistic and introverted, but she is authentic. She is my daughter, and I will not listen to one more person criticize her. Mila was watching me now, her eyes wide. Tuesday's hearing will determine whether your sons are expelled or merely suspended, I told Daniela and Dawson. Given the severity and repetition of the offenses, the board is leaning toward expulsion, and it's likely they'll have to report it to any school or college they apply to in the future. You can't let that happen, Daniela's voice broke. They're your nephews. I don't get a vote. I already told you that. I stood, taking my plate and Mila's. But even if I did, academic honesty isn't negotiable. Actions have consequences. You should appreciate that. You were just giving me a lecture about the real world. Alana, please. Daniela's eyes filled with tears. They made a mistake. They're just kids. So is Mila. And you called her weird to her face at a family dinner. I carried the plates to the kitchen. You want to talk about better parenting? Start by teaching your sons that cheating is wrong, that buying your way through school is fraud, that integrity matters more than a grade. I was just joking about Mila. Daniela followed me. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. I put the plates in the sink. You've made comments like that for years, about how she dresses, how she plays, how she learns. You've questioned my parenting in front of the entire family more times than I can count. I'm sorry. Her voice became small. I really am. I shouldn't have said those things. No, you shouldn't have. I turned to face her. And maybe if you'd spent less time criticizing my daughter and more time paying attention to your own, you would have noticed they were cheating. That's not fair, isn't it? I crossed my arms. You were so focused on the appearances, the honor roll, the soccer captain, the student council, that you never questioned how they were maintaining it. Did you care more about the prestige than the character? Dawson appeared in the doorway. What do we do? You show up on Tuesday at 3 p.m. You let your sons face the consequences of their actions. You stop buying their way through life. I walked past him, back into the dining room. And you never ever criticize my daughter again. Mila was still at the table, but she was sitting up straighter now, the curtain of her hair no longer hiding her face. Ready to go, sweetie? I held out my hand. She took it and stood up. We're leaving, I said. Yes. I looked at my parents. Thanks for dinner, Mom. We're going. Alana, wait. My father stood. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I helped Mila into her jacket. Daniela made her position clear. She thinks Mila is weird and I'm a bad mother. I've made my position clear. I will not tolerate anyone insulting my daughter. But it's family, my mother began. Family isn't a free pass for cruelty. I zipped up Mila's jacket. It doesn't mean you let someone tear down a 10-year-old girl who has done nothing wrong. Mila is kind, creative, intelligent, and honest. If that makes her weird, then I am proud of her weirdness. Mila squeezed my hand. And as for Daniela's sons, the disciplinary process will proceed as it would for any other student. I grabbed my purse. The evidence speaks for itself. The board will decide based on the school's code of conduct and on precedent, not on family relationships. You're really going to let them get expelled? Daniela's voice was desperate. I'm not letting anything happen. They made their choices. I opened the front door. You know what Mila does when she has a difficult assignment? She asks for help. She goes to the library. She reads extra books. She works until she understands. She doesn't cheat. She doesn't look for shortcuts. And maybe that's why her grades aren't perfect. But they're real. She earned them. The chilly November air hit us as we stepped onto the porch. That's the difference between our children, Daniela. Mine has integrity. Yours have trophies built on lies. I closed the door behind us. In the car, Mila was quiet for several minutes as I drove. Finally, she spoke. Mom? Yes, sweetie. Am I weird? I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. You're different. Different isn't weird. Different is just different. But the other girls aren't you. Some people are loud and very social. Some people are quiet and thoughtful. Both are okay. I turned onto our street. Your aunt was wrong to say those things, and I should have stopped her years ago. I'm sorry I didn't. It's okay. No, it's not okay. Grown-ups are supposed to protect kids, not tear them down. I parked in the driveway. You are exactly who you are meant to be, Mila, and I love every single part of you. She unbuckled her seatbelt. Do you really work at the boys' school? I do. Are they really in trouble? They are. Are they really going to be expelled? I turned to face her. Probably. What they did was very serious. They cheated on multiple assignments and tests over several months. They broke the school's rules and their own word. That's sad. It is. I touched her hand. But it's also a consequence of their choices. Sometimes people have to face the results of what they did. That's how they learn. Aunt Daniela was really mean. She was, and it was wrong of her. I squeezed her hand. Come on, let's go inside and you can show me what you've been drawing this week. Her face lit up. I finished the Forest Guardians series. I can't wait to see it. We went inside together, leaving the judgment and cruelty behind in my parents' dining room. Mila's drawings were spread out on the kitchen table, intricate, imaginative scenes filled with detail and emotion. She explained each one to me with an enthusiasm I rarely saw. My phone buzzed with messages. My mom, my brother, Daniela, of course. I silenced it and focused on my daughter. She wasn't weird. She was creative. She wasn't broken. She was thoughtful. She wasn't falling behind. She was moving at her own pace, developing her own talents, finding her own way. And anyone who couldn't see that didn't deserve a place in her life. Tuesday's hearing would happen, regardless of family pressure. The evidence was clear. The offenses were documented. The policies were established. Daniela's sons would face a consequence. But tonight wasn't about them. Tonight was about Mila understanding that she was valued, protected, and loved for exactly who she was. I had stayed silent for too long, letting the comments slide to keep the family peace. That ended today. Mila deserved better than a mother who prioritized politeness over her well-being. "This is my favorite," Mila said, pointing to a drawing of a girl with long, dark hair sitting under a tree, surrounded by forest creatures. "She's quiet, so the animals trust her. Loud people scare them away, but she stays still, and they come to her. It's beautiful, honey. She's different from everyone else, but the animals don't care. They like her anyway." I wrapped my arms around her. The right people will always appreciate what makes you special. My phone vibrated again. Daniela probably demanding something, or my mother trying to mediate. I turned it off completely. They could wait. My daughter couldn't.